Welcome to the Michigan Monday Morning Sports Reporters. I am Michael Spath of TheWolverine.com, here with John Borton of TheWolverine.com to my left, Nick Baumgardner of MLive, and Ira Weintraub from WTKA, who is graciously willing to let me be the host today as opposed to him hosting, which is normally his bag every Monday through Friday. So thank you guys very much for coming, for joining us today. We're not at Frank's Diner today. We will be back there. It's Labor Day. We just thought we'd do this from our office, have some bagels and some cream cheese, and just get to talking about Michigan football. Guys, I want to start with, obviously, the first game. We all had our questions going into it. What was the one positive, maybe the thing that you thought, okay, that's a question answered, and what's the one thing that you still say, we need to see something, we need to see something different going forward?
All right, I'll pick an easy one. The Sam linebacker position is in good hands while Jake Ryan's out. In fact, they'll probably have to find a way to get Byard, Cam Gordon, and Jake Ryan on the field all together at some point in time, because both those guys played great in the game on Saturday. So I'll start there. So I'm very confident at that position is shored up through the first half plus of the season.
Nick, what stood out to you?
You know, I thought the safeties played really well. In a pinch, too. I mean, obviously, they knew Thomas Gordon was going to be out, and so the kids knew that, too, and then obviously Courtney Avery. But, Jared Wilson looked like he'd lost his job, basically. Josh Furman has been a backup. Those guys were thrown in a pinch, and I know it was just central, but, there was going to be a question mark at least free safety going into the game. And I thought they held up very well. I thought, in fact, there were times where it looked like Blake Countess was struggling and the safeties were helping out. So I think that was one that they can look at that and say, okay, at least Thomas Gordon will be back and Avery will be back at some point. But you've got four pretty good players there, or at least guys that you can feel confident in going forward when it gets more difficult.
And you focus on the safety position, but I think you can expand that. Yes, Wilson stepped up and he wasn't supposed to start the game in the original plan, but he blows up the screen pass. He almost has a pick. Very good job by him, but you expand that to the defensive depth as a whole.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All the guys that they rolled in there. I mean, I think we had a feeling that was going to be the case, but that it just was affirmed throughout that
21
game.
guys in the first half.
Yeah. Wasn't our joke in the press box on our row? The joke basically was they were having a red shirt burning party after the game to send back the ball, and that's basically what they did, especially on the defensive side.
I could not believe, I was trying to keep track of, okay, who's in the game right now? Who's in the game now? The defensive line, I think I went back and looked at the film yesterday, they counted 10 different defensive linemen in the first half, and if you look at the player participation chart, they end up having 14 for the game. Now, some of those guys are going to play at the end, Richard Ash and guys that get in for, in the fourth quarter, but when they said they were going to rotate, they were not lying. They were going to rotate. Frank Clark, Mario Ojimudi, Keith Heitzman, 3 interior linemen, 3 outside guys. It was really incredible.
10 guys in the first 2 series. So it was right off the bat. I saw Byard came down and played on rush end, and then it was 10 guys in 2 series. And I think somebody's going to probably try to challenge them and go hurry up at some point. But still, to have confidence in 10, 12 guys, that's
you've been used to it. You're used to line changes in hockey, and that's kind of what it was. Watching 3 guys at a time going in and going out, depending upon the situation, and sometimes just to get, as Madison has been telling us for weeks, fresh bodies, because it makes a difference. Not in the fourth quarter against Central, but in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame, and even more so in November. They're not as worn down as they could be in the years past because they are playing 3 deep at every position.
And you flip it to the other side of the football, the opportunity to get Shane Morris extensive run in that game. How important is that when you're a snap away from him being your guy against Notre Dame or against Ohio State or whatever it is? A lot of people, I think, were almost delusional before the season started, saying, "Oh, you'd love to redshirt him." Well, you're not going to redshirt him. You can't. He is that close to being in there on every play. So I think getting him and seeing him as much as we did, and him being able to make some throws out there under live game action was impressive and huge for this team.
Absolutely. Was there any, we talked about some of the strengths, was there something that came out that you just said that they have to improve that tremendously before they go and play Notre Dame?
I think the offensive line probably still needs to get a little better, although I think they did a nice job considering, but to me the wide receiver, Gallon is still Gallon, and we all knew that, but I feel like they still need someone, Jeremy Jackson, obviously it looked like he was considerably ahead of Chesson on the depth chart there. He played more, and Chesson didn't make a catch. Somebody's got to become some kind of a vertical threat, because at some point you're going to have to be able to stretch the field, and I don't know if Gallon and Funchess or a combination of that is going to be enough. So I think somebody there has to assert themselves or step up and do something, and we don't know about Joe Reynolds. Well, I guess we'll find out later today how healthy or not he is. So if they lose one more guy there, that could be more interesting going forward as well.
We said on the radio, a 59-9 win, and you actually have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Coaches can go back with a 50-point blowout and say, we need to fix X, Y, and Z and go from there. And you mentioned the offensive line. I think they're already beyond where they were at the end of last year when they were probably at their best, and there's so much upside to them that I love to see that progression over week 1 to week 2 to week 3. I have a lot of confidence in that. The biggest thing to me actually goes back to defense. They, as tight as they were, sudden change, they were really good doing all that stuff. They missed a lot of tackles by the line of scrimmage, and so they gave up some plays that if it's not Central, if it's somebody better in the year, if it's Ohio State at the end of the year, those are going to be big plays against. Nebraska will torch them if they do that again. And that got better as the game progressed, but they have to work on that week in and week out and get better week to week.
I think the thing that initially was a concern for me is, and it is a concern, is 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions. You can't have 3 interceptions against a better team because those are going to come back and be touchdowns instead of field goals. I mean, Central Michigan scored 6 of their 9 points off of Baumgardner interceptions, including one that took place at the 6-yard line. And I think maybe I was a little bit hard on Baumgardner in the immediate aftermath and said, hey, those are passes he can't throw. And certainly the first one's a pass that needs to be a better one. He can't throw it behind his receiver.
3 seconds earlier,
Right.
it's a great play.
Absolutely.
You're late and behind him.
Yeah.
Looking at the second interception, I think the chemistry that Gardner and Gallen have, he looked up, he didn't have the guy down the right side. I think it was Chasson, was double covered. He looked to the left, Jeremy Gallen is single covered and said, listen, this is my guy. I'm just going to throw the ball up there and let Gallen go make a play on it. Well, Jeremy's done that a lot of times for him, but at the end of the day, he's still a 5'8" wide receiver, and he's not going to go out and get every single ball, especially when it's overthrown. But I don't really fault Devin as much for that second interception, but certainly you can't have those kind of turnovers and get away with it against better teams.
Confidence is a good thing, but overconfidence, especially in one guy in that situation, was sort of a detraction. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I watched the game with Marcus Ray sitting next to me and having a defensive back right there explaining basically everything he sees. And what he talked about on that interception, he says, oh, here comes the max protect. And they sent 1 or 2 guys out into the pattern. And what he says is that if you have, now the single coverage, you could make the play, like you said. It's 1-on-1. You like your chances with that. But if you don't have the open, if he's really being covered well, you throw the ball 10 yards out of bounds and you just move on to the next play. And that's something that you go from week 1 to week 2, he'll get better at.
Week 1 to week 2 as well. You're talking about offensive line. You got 3 guys, first time out there. And I don't think Michigan is going to throw its whole offense out there the week before Notre Dame against Central Michigan.
Right.
So you've got a couple of things. You got guys getting accustomed to it, and you're also not really showing your offense. So I'm very interested to see how that progresses.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because I kind of want to ask you guys, as Brady Hoke said earlier in the week, we're not going to dumb down, we're not going to vanilla this offense. There's no reason to. And yet, I think what we saw on Saturday, I would say, John, that we almost saw way too much offense. We almost saw the opposite of that. They were doing pistol, they were doing spread, they were doing I formation. We saw everything. Was that almost like the difference of dumbing down, overloading what they want to do to give Notre Dame too much to think about?
I certainly think there's things that you didn't see that are specific to Notre Dame, but I understand what you're saying in terms of we're gonna throw a lot of things out there and work on things in general. But I think they gave him plenty to look at, but not really focused in on this is how we're going to attack the Irish.
I think they showed a lot of their base stuff. They showed a lot of packages. There's still things they can probably do off of different actions they can do off of everything. But at the end of the day, though, having a guy like Baumgardner who's way different than Jannard, they can do 6, 7 different things because he can fit all these different packages. I think I wrote at the end of the day, Al Borges, I think, wants to put Baumgardner in as many positions to succeed or make plays as humanly possible. And I'm sure they have more formations in the bag somewhere, but we did see a lot, and that does give Notre Dame a lot to think about and a lot to have to prepare for.
Yeah, you're limited. You have 20 hours to practice. You have a certain, actually it's less than that because I was at 3 hours for the game in your 20-hour week. So you don't have only so many hours that you can get in to practice all these things. So what does Notre Dame key on? We were joking about it in the press box. We're like, I thought they were an under center I formation team and they're running the spread. Maybe we see no spread next week. But Notre Dame spends half their time defending in practice because they think it's going to come. We just don't know. I think what Al wants to show is that he has his full arsenal. But we saw the basics of that full arsenal. We haven't seen all the actions that come off of it. We saw one reverse. But that's a staple play if you're getting the ball to Norfleet because they want to get the ball in his hands. There are so many other things that they can do off of the basic stuff we saw It should be fun. If this team, they stay healthy, they move forward, this should be a lot of fun to watch what Al Borges can do as he opens it up week in and week out.
Here's the play that they showed that will worry Notre Dame maybe as much as anything else. Play totally breaks down. The quarterback runs all over the field and dumps it off. I mean, that's the one that's going to be tough to defend.
And those are the ones that the Irish fans know well from what Denard Robinson's done, a couple different times to them, that they're going to sit there and go, oh, geez, I don't want to see that again. But, talking about Al Borges, he certainly has come under scrutiny the last couple of years, and I don't think fans truly appreciate the fact that he was running a spread hybrid offense that he really never had ever coached before. Now he's got his personnel. He's got, he's doing what he wants to do. I thought he called a pretty good game on Saturday. You talk about the reverse with Norfleet. That was the perfect timing for that. He did maybe confuse us a little bit. I think we all thought he was going to open up the game and run.
Power.
That third quarter, I think they had a scoring drive where they ran every single time for 10 plays. I think that's what we all expected to see early going. But, I like the fourth down call with Devin Gardner rolling out and picking up the first down and giving him the opportunity. What he did on Saturdays, he said, listen, Devin Gardner is my best player by far right now. This is the guy I know. And as you said, let me just put him in a situation to succeed, and that's what he did.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the game, and Hope said afterward, it was their NASCAR stuff, I think they were scripting and trying to get a couple series of that worked in and out of the way. But once that was done by the third series, it was not a lot of cute, not a lot of fancy, and it was, like you said, put Devin in position to make plays. And on the third and short, fourth and short, it was just, line up, hat on a hat, and move the football. And that's something in the last couple of years we didn't see because they couldn't do it. I mean, and we saw in that the Derek Green, Davion Smith drive where it was 10 carries, or all power plays, or all fullback ISOs or double tight, whatever it was. And the perfect example was the 3rd and 1 at the goal line. Derek Green runs into 2 guys and runs through them and scores. There's not one guy on the roster last year that doesn't end up with a loss or a 0 rush on that.
Yeah. Speaking about those running backs, I think we saw 5 or 6 different guys get carries on Saturday. Obviously, that'll get pared down going into Notre Dame. So if we know Fitzgerald Toussaint's the number 1 back, do we know who the number 2 back is right now coming off of Saturday?
Well, it depends on injury. Because I think Drake really earned that opportunity, and we don't know what he could have done in the game because he got hurt. So, argument's sake, Drake is 100%. He's fine to go. I think he still gets cracked to be number 2. But what we saw in the game is that Derek Green is such a different back than the other guys that you almost have one in Fitz and then like a 2A and 2B, where Drake Johnson's your speedier, a little more athletic, and Derek Green obviously is just going to barrel you over and knock you on your butt. And it gives him a little more versatility. It can do so many different things. I'm waiting for a pro-style set where you have 2 tailbacks behind him, or a shotgun with 2 tailbacks on either side of the quarterback, and you don't know where the ball's going to go because they have all these different options. And we haven't seen a lot of passes out of the backfield, the running backs either, which we know the guys can catch the ball too.
It almost depends too on what you want to run, because I saw Derek Green really get rolling between the tackles and moving at times. He tried to stretch play to the outside. It wasn't there. That's one thing that the dietitian's going to say. Okay, you drop these few pounds and you're going to make the corner.
Yeah.
But and I wouldn't rule out Thomas Rawls, because I think he showed some good movement and good cuts at times and a step up.
He's the best vision in 3 years.
His vision has literally gotten better. What a lot of people don't know is that he was having actual vision problems and that he got that corrected. So
North-south running. I mean, Thomas Rawls, when you go back and look at, he only had 3 or 4 carries, but he got north-south. And you bring up Derek Green and Davion Smith did the same thing. I think these freshman backs, they have to figure it out with an opponent that, wow, this is not high school anymore. I cannot just decide the hole is not here, I'm going to kick to the outside, I'm going to get around these guys because they don't have the speed to match up with me. Even if you can't go lateral on Central Michigan, you're not going to go lateral on Notre Dame or Nebraska, certainly not Michigan
Nebraska
State.
maybe. Nebraska
Yeah, certainly not Michigan State or Ohio State.
Where you want, yeah.
So that's what those, there are a couple times I looked at the film yesterday, and Derek Green and Davion Smith, now in all fairness, the cutback lanes maybe weren't there like they need to be, but they try to stretch some things outside, as you said, JB, and you just can't do that at this level.
This isn't going to be an intense competition, too, at that spot, even for the 2 or the 3. I mean, when you saw those guys get into the 3rd, 4th quarter, and it's 56-9, they are running hard. I mean, Green, Smith, Justice Hayes comes in and runs hard, Thomas Rawls running hard. These guys want to play. All of them want to play. There's nobody on that depth chart that is okay with being 5 or 6 on the depth chart, and that you don't always see that. There's sometimes where there's a guy that says, I know I'm not going to play, I'll get in and pick my spots. All these guys want to play, and all of them want to start. So, I mean, it's like dream scenario for an offensive coordinator for Fred Jackson that all these guys want to play.
Fred Jackson is having early '90s flashbacks. You know,
Exactly right.
Actually, you know, he's thinking Tyrone Wheatley, Tumunga Biaka Batuka, Ricky Powers,
John Vaughn and the rest of them.
and the house cat. You remember him?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, so we're not even just running back. And you look, we talked defensive line earlier, you can talk linebacker and some other positions. The word depth, and now there's a lot of youth there. We know that there's a lot of youth there, but it's some talented youth at all these positions. And to have that many guys, whether it's in the game to be fresh or what you're talking about, the competition in practice every day, those guys want to beat the snot out of each other because they want to get the job. Now they're going to cheer each other on when they're not in the game, but they want that job. So they're busting their butts every day on State Street, which does, we hear from coaches, but it's not coach speak, it's true. It does make them better, and there's no chance for complacency from a number one tailback because there's nobody pushing them. There's 5 guys pushing them.
Wanted to ask you guys, okay, well, we've dissected this pretty good so far here. Let's move forward a little bit, talk about Notre Dame. We know that Michigan's going to need Devin Gardner to have a huge game on Saturday. We know Fitzgerald Toussaint's going to be the running back, and we know Jeremy Gallen's going to be the wide receiver. Out of this offense, we didn't get to see the first string for more than 2.5 quarters on Saturday. Shane Morris came in the third quarter, and started working with the backups. So out of this first team unit, if Michigan's going to go out and beat Notre Dame on Saturday, who out of that, outside of those 3 guys, Toussaint, Gardner, and Gallen, who needs to step up and have a big game for Michigan?
I think it's the interior of the offensive line. I think Notre Dame's interior, even without Teo, Lewis Finks is still there. They're still, a down the middle defense who they've got an All-American in the middle. They can stop the run. They didn't let up one rushing touchdown last season during the regular season for the Alabama mess. But, they have to at least get some sort of a push. I don't want to say they have to dominate the line of scrimmage, but they can't be dominated. So if Michigan's going to have any chance in that game, they have to have a presence right in the middle. Otherwise, it could be a long day. But if they can do that, have some sort of push, maybe control it a little bit. I like their chances in that one.
I'm not going to try and get tricky and go off the board. I absolutely agree. Notre Dame wins this game if it has the kind of penetration to not only stop the run game, but really get to Gardner before he's able to do some of that running around. If they can blow it up early on some pass plays and put pressure on him and make him make bad decisions, bad throws, it's got a great chance. And really, Michigan's going to try and do the same thing to Reese on the other side of the ball. So what team is able to do that better? And from Michigan's side, you've got to think that requires those interior offensive linemen especially to at least hold their own.
And I 100% agree with you guys. Whoever's staring at Knicks on the other side of the field has to do his job. If it's 2 of them, they have a great defensive end as well. So they're stout up front. So to take that to the next point, there's not going to necessarily be a lot of time for a lot of those downfield things. You're going to have to find Dilio quickly. You're going to have to find Norfleet quickly if he's out there. You're going to have to find Funchess as a big target. Those 3 guys, in particular Dilio and Funchess, quick over-the-middle targets from the slot and the tight end position are going to have to be big helps because there's going to be a lot of plays where if you step up, you're in Nix's face. If you try to roll out, you're in a defensive end space. So he's going to have to get rid of the ball quick. So those other guys have to step up too.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Funchess just to say we didn't see them really attack the middle of the field on Saturday, and maybe that's something they're going to wait until Notre Dame, because when you look at that Notre Dame front 7 and they're going to be coming, they know what the weakness is supposedly right now, and is that interior offensive line. They're going to be coming, so you got to give them something else to think about. If you can hit a couple of those passes over the middle, certainly that might back them up a little bit. Defensively, though, we know that Tommy Reese is going to be the quarterback, and Michigan fans love to dog this guy. I'm not sure why.
It's that one pass where he threw the ball to nobody and that lost the game for him.
Has he had some bad turnovers in his career? Absolutely. Did he lead Notre Dame to what was going to be the game-winning score 2 years ago? Yes. Did he do it last year and get them their only touchdown? Yes. He's had some success against Michigan, and on Saturday he threw for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's a guy that has a lot of experience. They've got to make him uncomfortable like they did Cody Cater and Alex Niznak on Saturday, and that's where that defensive line and that rotation comes in. And we saw Frank Clark and Mario Ojemudia, Jabril Black get to the quarterback a little bit. They need to, if it's possible, they need to ramp it up even more and be even more consistent with their pressure on Saturday.
You know why I don't think people are that concerned about Tommy Reese right now? Because they're missing the most important players over the last 3 or 4 years. There's no Michael Floyd, there's no Golden Tate, there's no Tyler Eifert. Who's the playmaker on the outside that Reese is actually going to get the ball to? I know they have a running game, they have some players that can make some plays, but who are the big guys on the outside? Eifert is going to be the biggest loss that they had from last year, not Teo. So without him on the field, that allows Michigan to do more things because they don't have any mismatch issues. I don't think in one single position on the field. Last year, every time you looked at Eifert, you're like, all right, they better stop him. There's nobody out there like that this year.
Well, he was the one that had that key third down reception at the end of the game when they were trying to get him off the field, and they said, "Hey, let's just throw it up to him and let him make a play," and he did.
They should have done the whole game last year. They didn't.
I think the gauge in this game is the tomato meter. Yeah, you just look at.
I'm not sure where we're going. Yet,
just look at Brian Kelly's face, and the redder it gets, you know Tommy Rees is not handling the football well, and that's when he just loses it. And that's where Michigan came into this year talking about we got to force more turnovers. This is a game where that has to come into play because he gets a little careless with the ball. I mean, he can throw it. There's no question. But some of the plays that he's had in the red zone that have turned out very badly for Notre Dame is what can turn this game around for Michigan.
Defensively, we're going to see how big of a step this defensive line takes. How good is this group really going to be? I mean, Notre Dame lost some offensive line, but if it's still Notre Dame, it's still a good football team. Are these guys really ready to go? There's a lot of young guys who haven't played a ton, but we know they have talent. This is, like we said, conversely, if Notre Dame's going to win the game, they're going to rush up the middle and stop the run. Michigan, like we said, they have to get after Reese. They have to come off the edge. Frank Clark's got to have a big game, and it can't just be him blindly running in a straight line at the quarterback and letting someone run by him. I mean, these guys have got to take that step and really just kind of put it all together. And that's why and that's why for Michigan, this is a bummer that this game is going away, because you have it right here in the second game, and you can find out these little things going forward. Who do we have that can really be a complete player on the front four? Can we really rotate 10? Are they all ready to play, when the lights come on, so to speak? So it's going to be big for that group, I think, especially.
I know that over the weekend, Brian Kelly said that he didn't think that Michigan was a historic rival for Notre Dame, which I guess they don't really compare to Air Force and the Army and the Navy and
the school that taught him how to play football, that stopped him on the way to Chicago and said, hey guys, this is how you play pigskin. That doesn't count.
Right.
So it's not that important, right?
But will that be motivation for this week, or do we, in the media, kind of overrate those things? Do we say that guys, if someone makes us a silly comment that, Devin Gardner going back to the summer where he said, I'm confident we're going to beat Ohio State, and that became a big story. Does it need to be a big story? I mean, are they sitting there in the locker room this week and Brady Hoke's walking in there and he's got it up on the wall that says they don't think this is a historic rivalry? I mean, do we make too much of that, or are they going to be using that this week?
We completely blow it up to be too much, except at one school, and that's up in Michigan State, where they had quotes on the wall from like Steve Everett during our mock takeover saying, mocking Kirk Cousins, who was actually just mocking his own program, which is pretty hilarious. I mean, you go back, Lou Holtz on TV this weekend said that the chicken comment was going to come back to bite Brady Hoke in the butt this weekend. Really? So Brady Hoke talking to a bunch of alumni and calling Notre Dame chicken for backing out of a series has anything to do with the game on Saturday. Really, the players need extra motivation. The lights are going to be on. Under the lights, the picture behind us right there, 2 years later, you really need more motivation, like the chicken comment or no. This game is going to be played between the stripes, between these guys, because Michigan and Notre Dame don't like each other on the football field, and they want to go out and get a win, both sides.
It's fun to talk about.
Absolutely.
The first time somebody hits somebody, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're mad because you got hit or you want to bury somebody. It's not because so-and-so thinks I'm chicken or, that this isn't a rivalry. Here's a rivalry for you.
Now, if one of you guys are lined up against me and you in the press say, that guy is nothing, that's different because that's a one-on-one thing.
Yeah.
But a generic comment, it's us having fun for 6 or 7 days and then let
I think you're nothing, so.
We're going.
They'll use it though. I mean, let's not act like they won't. I mean, it'll be a message from Hoka. They don't think you're good enough. They don't want to play you anymore. This, that, and the other, and vice versa. They'll use it all week. But like John says, the minute the ball is kicked and two guys slam into each other, it's I forgot all about that, and it's just a game. And that's we make too much of it, but that's the fun part of our job, and that's why people get mad at us. But, that's
why they get mad at us and also love us, right?
Yeah.
So
you have message boards to fill. I have 20 hours of programming to fill. You have columns to write every day. So it's fun to talk about, and that there's only so much X's and O's that you can carry through to actually have fun with, right? We can talk about the matchups, but there's more to it than that. There is the passion behind it. It's why we love the Michigan State game, why we love the game at the end of the year, because there's passion between the fans and amongst the players. So it's something fun, definitely fun to talk about. When we see Notre Dame fans walking down the street on Saturday, I guarantee Michigan fans are going to cluck at them. And hopefully the Michigan marching band's going to come out and do the chicken dance and play the chicken dance song, because it's fun, but it has nothing to do at the end of the day what happens between the stripes.
Well, guys, last week we finished the segment talking about season predictions. Since this is a much bigger game than a week ago playing Central, let's finish this off. Our Monday morning sports reporters with a game prediction. I will let Nick start. We'll make our way around, and I'll hold off to the end because I'm just trying to be coaching.
Because he thinks he's smart and everything.
Well, I didn't want to admit it, but yes, okay.
Well, I said last week that my prediction was 10-2, and I thought Notre Dame was a win. So I'm gonna have to stick with it. And after last week watching, a little bit of Notre Dame, a little bit of Michigan, I will stick with it. I think I thought 28-24. I think it'll be a close game. I'm not sure we'll get the dramatics. Maybe, hopefully for my sake, we won't, because that's hard to write on, at 12:30 at night, whatever it is. But I think it's a close game. But I think all the intangibles and the little things go in Michigan's favor here, just like it did last year, and just like it did 2 years ago. I think that the little stuff at the end of the day rolls in Michigan's favor. I think they win this thing in a close one, but still a pretty impressive performance.
I was at 11-1 coming in to this year. I moved off that at all. I think Notre Dame is a win, and I think just like you said, intangibles, night game, at home. There's going to be so much going in Michigan's favor. You saw enough out of the defense to know that that will keep certainly Michigan in this game, and home field, I think Michigan gets it done.
I also predicted 11-1 at the beginning of the season when we had our show on Saturday, and I said that they'd be undefeated going into the Northwestern game. I'm not going to waver off of that one. And the fact, I'll go beyond the intangibles. I just think Michigan's the better football team. I think that they're a better offensive team, and I don't think it's all that close. I think defense, maybe Notre Dame's better. I'm not sure yet. They played Temple, so it's really hard to tell. But I think that if they are a better defensive team, Notre Dame is, it's not that much of a disparity. They're great up front, I'll give you that. But I think Michigan is the better all-around football team, and they go out and win the game at home.
All right, well, guys, that's some good predictions. I predicted 10-2 before the season began, and I predicted one of those losses to beat a Notre Dame. I think it'd be hypocritical of me now to then reverse direction and say that Michigan wins this game. I still look at Notre Dame's front seven versus Michigan's interior of the offensive line. Had Michigan's interior of the offensive line played better on Saturday and knocked Central Michigan back along the line of scrimmage, I'd be a little bit more confident. But I didn't see that. I saw too many times where Fitzgerald Toussaint was having to make a cut before he even got back to the line of scrimmage, or Derek Green or Devion Smith, or the cutback lanes weren't there. These guys have to dial it up big time to counter that Notre Dame front seven. I'm still going to go with the Irish just because I've been sticking with it for 6 months, and I'm prepared to be wrong. I'm prepared to be wrong, and I will come eat crow next week if I need to.
Like on a bagel or on a
Yeah, it'll be right there on top of the Panera bagel. But I'm predicting Notre Dame 21, Michigan 20.